But we're ready to kick off the competition. To get us started today, we have Todd Gigas, forward 2.5 somersaults with 1 twist in the pike position. Kicks us off with a 3.0 degree of difficulty. And a lovely start from Todd. 7s to count from the judges. The top 2 and the bottom 2 scores from the judges will be taken off in order to take the middle 3 scores. Next up, Hugo. Same degree of difficulty dive, except completely different, in with 2.5 somersaults pike. So we've got a standing start here. Another very good dive. Didn't finish massively high above the water, but comes out through that pike shape, opens out, opens his hips out, and a great rip entry. So again, we see good scores. Yuho's going to follow him up with the exact same dive. He was very consistent this morning throughout the majority of his list. The same dives, but with an extra somersault. All good dive. Putting in very good dives to make sure they get those points on the board early, get themselves into the competition, hopefully settle those nerves a little bit. Jump nice and good balance away from the board, so the fine line between being too close to the board and too far away. That one was just right from Yuho. Next up, Jake. Forward 2.5 somersaults with 1 twist pike. Another good dive from Jake. I've been really impressed with how Jake's really patient on the board. And then he floats around on that entry, has a little look. Reason we're seeing slightly lower scores, maybe we would expect a little bit higher there, just his legs went a little bit loose. And now Jordan, this dive this morning was absolutely beautiful. 81 points. Can he follow it up this afternoon? Again, a very, very nice dive from Jordan. So easy for him. Repikes there, has a look at the water, and then squeezes those hips in and gets a great entry. Scores 83 points. This morning was 81. James Heatley now in his home pool. Hopefully the familiar surroundings will help him in his competition today. Well held from James, starting off with his easiest dive in his list, which sometimes means really, really important to just control that dive, make sure it doesn't go flying over. It's quite an easy dive for James to make, so having that control and making sure you stay upright is very important. Now Leon, one of our younger divers, saw him doing amazing forward 4.5 somersaults this morning. This time, the 3.5 somersaults pike. Good dive again from Leon. Makes this look very easy. Comes out, triple somersault, tees his arms out, has a little look where he is, and then lines it up. Be a little bit more patient with his hand grab sometimes. Just now, Ross Haslam, someone I'm of course very familiar with, and I'm sure you will forgive me for any biased comments that I may make during this competition towards him. Great start from Ross. I got a little bit nervy. His start was so quick. He was spinning around really, really fast, but he put his feet out in the perfect position. Judges just going with the 7.5s. Next up, Dan. Forward 2.5 somersaults, 2 twists. Good entry from Dan. A little bit loud on the board, and as you can see, his feet were way over the end of that board. Just means it's really, really hard to control that dive. The hurdle steps caused a few problems for the boys this morning. Jack Law with the same dive. This wasn't as well performed as we're used to seeing from him this morning, so hopefully this afternoon we'll see a little bit better. And that's exactly what we have seen. Beautiful from Jack. That's much more like it. This morning just missed his entry a little bit because he over-rotated slightly. This afternoon, no such problem. Absolutely beautiful dive. 8s from the judges to count. So after one round, you can see our results. Similar to this morning, Jordan Holden takes the lead after he's faulting off some sorts with 2 twists. And down at the bottom of the table, bits first dive of the second round. Todd, forward 3.5 somersaults pike. Oh. Well recovered from Todd. You can see the little flappy arms as he steps down from those hurdles. He knew that he was struggling to get on the end of the board there. He held on pretty well, got it upright, so wasn't a massive drama, but from that hurdle step, you leave yourself a lot of work to do. Next up, Hugo. Was junior elite champion last year. Amazing that being a junior last year and he's still managing to pull these dives out already. 3.5, reverse 3.5 somersaults tuck. Much better with the feet. Kicks out at the perfect time. Well snuck in there from Hugo. Just off his start, he just jumped a little bit far out into the water, which when you are next, Yuho. Back to the pike dives. Back 2.5 somersaults pike. And again, 3.0. And again from Yuho. Been very consistent all day so far. I don't want to put the commentator's curse on him, but every dive has been very steady. Not gone much below a 6 to count all day. Is Jake up now with an in 2.5 somersaults pike. Jake unlucky to miss out on a junior worlds medal last year. Came 5th, but just 3 points behind the medals. You can see why he was up there challenging with today's diving. And again, another great dive from Jake. Good pike shape, good balance. The spin speed was a little bit slow, if I'm being slightly critical, which just meant when he came out of the shape and lined up, he just left a little bit of water splashing off his chest. So our current leader, Jordan Holden, moves on to the standing dive, inward 3.5 somersaults tuck. And again, very nice dive from Jordan. Beautiful balance. He stands up so tall. I mentioned a couple of times this morning that there's a very fine line between being perfect balance and too close to that board. Next up, James. He's going to do the same dive. Interesting to see the like-for-like comparison. This one's a 3.4. Again, well snuck in from James. Just on that takeoff, just cut the start off a little bit. Instead of trying to get his hips up and over his head, he just let his hips drop back slightly, which just made it a little bit lower finishing than he would have liked. Our third in with 3.5 in a row, Leon. Oh, that's the first drop we've seen this competition so far, really. Spins so fast, Leon. Unfortunately, he's just tucked his chin in a little bit too much. Not quite had the awareness on his come out and let that dive roll over from vertical. We've got a round of inward 3.5s here. You see Ross and Dan with the inward 3.5, and then Jack finishes off the round with something different. So Ross's turn. Oh, very nice again from Ross. That's what we like to see. Nice and easy. Gets out in that straight line. Good dive again from Ross. And the judges aren't really giving away. I know we saw some very, very high-level dives. Dan had a bit of a drop on this morning. His first round dive wasn't up to the standard he would have wanted, so see how he does here. And that's much, much more like it. Wow. Absolutely beautiful from Dan. Now we'll see what the judges give that. 8.5s to count. Very, very, very amazing dive there from Dan. This morning, Jack did this, and it was a real wow dive for me to watch. 85.75, but I really think it could have gone even higher. And again, it's just the same. So easy. Kicks those feet out, has a little reach back and disappears through the water. Love that from the judges. Unfortunately, they don't count. Top 2 nines get taken off. 89.25. Well deserved. There we go. Shaking up a little bit. Dan's beautiful in with 3.5, putting him right back in the mix. Back 2.5 somersaults took. But again, very nicely executed. Kicks those feet out at the perfect time. Holds that dish nice and tight, and then gets those hands back behind his ears. Goes through that water with very little splash. So again, we see good scores there from Todd. Hugo up next. Forward 3.5 somersaults pike. So big step up. Hopefully he can get this dive in. Nice dive from Hugo. Again, very easy. Good tight pike shape. Just drifts slightly over from vertical. Just let those arms come all the way back to his ears before he throws them into his pike shape. Just Yuho with the same dive. Yeah, great. Another very consistent dive. All these pike dives going nice and upright. Not much variation around his. Next up, Jake. He's going with back 2.5 somersaults pike. So 3.0 again. Oh, first slight drop we've seen from him. Just over rotates on that back spinning dive. Unfortunately, sometimes if you lean a little bit too far away from the board, when you lean, you just create that extra bit of rotation. So Jordan was in second after the last round. Jack's reverse 3.5 took him into the lead. He does his reverse 3.5 now. And there we go, another beautiful dive there from Jordan. Held onto that hurdle step really, really well. Miles up in the air. Kicks his feet out, perfect time. Just didn't quite get the rip entry that we can see from Jordan on this dive. He's got a beautiful rip entry, especially on his back and reverse. So again, great dive there from Jordan. Now James, this was very, very nice this morning. Great rip entry through the water. You can see him going through the feel of his dive in his head there, just moving those hips as the body feels when you're spinning round. That's how subtle the movements feel in the air. Again, good dive from James. Say it before the dive, but he had a little bit of trouble with this. He also does this dive with an extra twist, so sometimes the twist happens so fast it's very easy to get lost between. Now Leon. This was the big dive this morning from him. 85 points on this one. Hopefully we can see it again, and even more if the judges are nice. Oh. Again, he was so high up in the air. I thought we were about to see exactly the same this morning. Just similar to his inward. Just tucked his head in a little bit. He spins so fast. It's so easy to get lost on these dives. You're really, really trying to squeeze in and get it round to your head. Now Ross. This was a bit of a drop for him this morning. Not one that we're used to seeing him drop. It is, in fact, 3.5. Still very high on the degree of difficulty. That's much more like it. There we go. Much more tummy tension as he came into that pike shape there. So there we go from Ross. Much better score than this morning. Might have rewarded him with a few more marks. Now Dan, reverse 3.5. Again, another one that was beautiful this morning. Panicked a little bit. He was a little bit back on that board, which just meant didn't quite get the purchase to bring him miles away from that board. Judges might have just penalised him a little bit for that stompy hurdle step. Jack Law, our leader after the first 2 rounds. Now on the inward 3.5 somersaults tuck. That's much more like it than this morning. This morning just didn't quite see the inward 3.5 that we know Jack's capable of, but that's much more like it. Still think the balance has got much more left in that, but even jumping that far away from the board, he makes it so easily that he can pike out, have a look at the water, and then line up. So there we are, after 3 rounds, the midway point, capable of doing these dives. Just when you're competing in such a high pressure environment, you only get one chance. One thing goes wrong, these divers can have a massive effect. Todd with a reverse 2.5 with a beautiful entry. Really enjoy watching his dives. That's one of the best things about watching diving, in my opinion. There's no better feeling as an athlete as well when you know you've hit the water and you can feel that you've gone through exactly like that. It's such a great feeling. Now Hugo with his big dive. Second highest degree of difficulty of the whole competition, 3.8. Highest is just 0.1 higher than that. Huge dive. Very well snuck in from Hugo. Very well. When he took off from the board, I was a little bit apprehensive to whether all those rotations were going to get in, but he squeezes in to a nice tight tuck shape and he spins really, really well. Now Yuho to continue the consistent diving that he's shown all day, hopefully, with a reverse 2.5 somersaults pike. Good dive again from Yuho. An improvement from this morning as well. I think this morning one of my slight critiques from him was he threw his head back a little bit, looks back instead of keeping his chin down and watching his legs come up. That was definitely slightly better than this morning. Still. Next up we've got Jake, forward 3.5 somersaults pike, 3.1. Great dive again from Jake. Really tall. When he swings his arms in his hurdle step, they get all the way back to his ears, which just allows him to stand the dive up really steep, so you get all the height that you possibly can. Now Jordan, his biggest dive of the competition in round 4. Forward 2.5 somersaults, 3 twists. Oh, real shame there from Jordan. When he stepped down from his hurdle step, I got a little bit excited. He looked right on the end of the board, nice and quiet. Just lifted his chest up a little bit, too much on the end of that dive. Now James's turn for his second twist. He opts for a reverse 1.5 somersaults with 3.5 twists. So this one's a 3.5, still high up in the degree of difficulty, but 0.4 down from what we've just seen from Jordan. That's much more like it from James. The hurdle steps this morning caused him a little bit of problems. Few problems, should I say. Had a little bit of a knee buckle, which meant he restarted. That is much more like it. Now Leon. It's difficult sometimes in a competition when you have had a drop just to regain your focus and try and make sure the last few dives competed as well as you can. Sometimes it's really, really hard to just get yourself back into that competitive mind frame when you feel like you've let yourself fall out of the high level of competition. Ross with a forward 4.5 somersaults tuck. His big dive of the competition. Absolutely nailed it in training before the competition. Did this for over 100 points in the competition in Leeds a few weeks ago. Oh, there we go. Yes, get in there, Ross. Beautiful dive, 89 points. You can hear from my voice some obvious bias, but I hope you forgive me. Now puts a little bit of pressure on Dan. His first hurdle step on his first twisting dive. Just let him down slightly. Hopefully this one will not be the same. Oh, it's done so well to sneak that in. So impressive. This is so much dive, and when you don't quite get the height out of the board that you'd hope, like Dan did there, just being a little bit toes over the end, it's really, really hard, but being so quick. Now Jack, with his back 3.5 somersaults tuck. This one's a 3.6 degree of difficulty. I think if you ask Jack, he may probably describe this as his hardest dive, though. So despite the difficulty being a little bit lower, this one is actually a very hard dive to do. Oh, not that he's made it look like it's hard. Absolutely cruised round, kicks his feet out at the perfect time, and a great entry again through the water. Jack's really showing us some amazing diving this afternoon. I, for one, absolutely love to watch it, doing the hardest dives in the world, all of them capable of medaling at international events, as they've proved previously. Dan Goodfellow brings us up into third, just 1 point in front of Jordan, so a lot to compete for yet. Now Todd, with his in-between off some sort of tuck. Another very nicely executed dive from Todd. This one's just a 2.7, so we're not going to see the high total scores. Again, Todd lands nice and upright, clean entry, which is to give the judges a few more reasons to up those scores. Now Hugo comes from his very impressive forward 4.5 to the forward 2.5 somersaults with 2 twists. So again, another high degree of difficulty dive, 3.4. And he does just that. Great dive from Hugo. Great entry into the water with 7s to count from the judges. Now Yuho, he's doing the same dive but with 1 twist. Forward 2.5 somersaults with 1 twist. Also known as the full out. Again, very nicely executed from Yuho. Consistent, steady diving all day when you're doing the pike list. Pike list is often referred to as the Yuho's opting with the double out. That's often referred to as the pike list. Jake is doing similar. In fact, exactly the same, just in a slightly different order. Always find it interesting the divers put certain dives in different positions in the list, and another great dive from Jake. I thought, even though when he stepped down from his hurdle, his toes looked like they were just over the end of the board, but has the confidence in the strength in his legs to just wait, ride the board, and let it ping him up all the way as high as it can into the air. So something I've been really, really impressed with Jake over the last few years, as he's improved his strength and matured as a man. Now Jordan, back 3.5 somersaults tuck. When he does this well, he has the ability to do it better than the majority of the people in the world. And like that, so good. This dive is incredibly hard. These boys don't make it look it, but to make a back 3.5, you're starting from a standing position, so you don't get the purchase that you get off the board from a hurdle step, you don't get the height. Now James, he's doing reverse 3.5. This one's 3.5 instead of the 3.6 we've just seen from Jordan. Yes, James, not too bad. I thought it was going to be slightly better than that. It just didn't quite get those arms all the way back. I got a little bit excited. It's not a drop at all by any means. 5.5 isn't what would be considered as a drop for him, but it's probably also not quite where he'd want to be. I've already mentioned he's not had the preparation to his start of his year as he would have liked, with a few injuries. So probably not in the peak physical condition that he has been in the last couple of years, where we've seen him score huge scores and win this event. Oh, that, I mean, just to get that dive off was very impressive from Leon. His hurdle step, just toes again, half of his foot was over the end of the board. So the trouble is, when half of your foot is over the end of the board, if you push too hard, you're going to slip. So there's a real trade-off between just trying to stay on that board. Now Ross is doing the same dive. Yes, Ross. I've got sweaty palms sat here. I think I'm more nervous than Ross is. I'm definitely more nervous than he appears to be with the way he's performing today so far. Great dive from Ross. Reverse 3.5 somersaults. Another 85 points. In past years, if you get anything towards 80, 90 points on any of your dives, you'd be looking like you were going to win the title. Currently, you need multiple ones of them to win the title because the standard of these boys is so high. Oh, Dan. I mean, I can't say how impressive it actually is to be able to do that dive off such a bad hurdle step. His feet are miles over the end of the board, which just means you can see him drift out quite far into the middle of the pool. And then he's got the elegance and the awareness to come out of that dive and give a beautiful rip entry. So Dan's not letting the pack drift away. He also gets an 85-point dive. I would have been gobsmacked to see those scores. Jack, oh, he's really on form today. This morning, saw some great dives from him and some dives that I think it'd be fair to say, and he would probably be more than happy to say, that weren't to the standard that he would expect of himself. But this afternoon, I can't say that. Everything has been top standard. Jack Law, quite not much between the divers. Ross, 385, 20 points